What, according to you, would be the extreme for expressing your love to someone? Would a woman so determined to free her husband from prison that she learned to fly a helicopter just to break him out be out of your imagination? And believe me, this is not a plot from some action thriller movie, but the true story of Nadine Vaujour and her husband Michel. It wasn't the first time for Michel to make such a dramatic escape. Surprisingly, he'd already made 5 previous escapes. But how did he manage to do so, with such strong security and everyone's eyes on him? And what drove Nadine to take such an extraordinary measure? Was it just love or something even deeper? Let's find out. Now let's meet our protagonist of today, Michel Vaujour. The king of escapes was born on January 16, 1951, in Saint-Quentin-le-Petit. And Michel's childhood wasn't something anyone would ever really wish for. He grew up enduring the violence of his alcoholic father. Because of this, the lovely little boy grew up to become a rebellious delinquent during his teenage years. At the age of 18, Michel met his teenage love, a girl named Zabeth. However, things changed when Michel got her pregnant. Michel, who now had responsibilities, started working in a factory. As a father at 18, he borrowed or basically stole a car for a joyride while drunk. So the next morning, police knocked at the couple's door. Michel panicked, escaping through the window, leaving his pregnant girlfriend behind. Since he wasn't there, his girlfriend was arrested. However, the circle of karma soon got him, and Michel got arrested after 2 weeks and was sentenced to 30 months in prison. He was released in December 1972. By that time, Michel was 21, single and broke, and his ex-girlfriend had long moved on from him. He later was hired as an acrobat assembler in an oil complex. But not long after, Michel was arrested again one day when driving without a license. Michel had this thrill inside him to make escapes, and now is when he made his very first escape. Michel started observing the everyday movements of the people in the cell when he noticed something about the model prisoners. He noticed that they loaded and unloaded the trucks. And soon enough, he had a devilish plan. Michel turned himself into a model prisoner and loaded himself inside one of the bags, and poof, he was gone. But he was still a prisoner and couldn't land himself a job, so he had to take refuge in theft once again. In the dark of the night, when he was trying to break into another house, people heard him and immediately rang the station. Michel once again found himself behind bars. But this time, he was sent to a different prison. This one had a 6-meter-high wall to keep the prisoners from escaping. But that wasn't going to stop Michel. He found out a flaw here as well. Michel noticed that there was one fence that had rust on it. He planned to make his way through the fencing wire and then climb the tall wall. The plan went accordingly, but just as he was going to reach the other side, he fell and broke both of his ankles and found himself in the hospital and back in jail. Michel was not giving up. This time, he took the help of an inmate and climbed the wall using bed sheets to make his way out the other side. He was again a free man, but with empty pockets. So he went on a robbing spree, which eventually brought him back to jail with a 4-year sentence. This time, Michel decided to be more creative with his escape. Following his plan, he started a fight with one of the guards. Having jostled the guard, Michel managed to make an impression of the keyring with the red wax. And from what, you ask? Well, a Baby Bell cheese rind. He'd been collecting the wax from the Baby Bell cheese for months just to do this. He managed to produce a new duplicate key with a piece of iron file and a hacksaw. Michel took off once again and thus marked his 3rd prison break. Not long after, he fell in love with one of his ex-cellmate's sisters. Who was she? Take a guess. Yup, it was the one and only Nadine. The two were so in love. And if you think Nadine was the sweet daughter of the big mob family, then you're wrong. The seemingly sweet girl had her own history of fraud and robbery. Their romance was short-lived as Michel got arrested again for attempted robbery. This time, he was put in a super high-security prison with more guards than prisoners. Michel had already spent 3 years in jail when he got married to Nadine. Yes, the pair couldn't just stop with their romance. Nadine had this certain belief that Michel would find his way out. And just as she thought, the day finally came. In 1979, when he was being taken to the court for his trial, he took the judge hostage, threatening that he would kill her with the pistol he had. But where did he get that pistol from? Well, the pistol was made out of a bar of soap, which was painted black with a polish. He used a bar of soap to bluff his way out of one of the strongest prisons in the country. And there he goes again, prison break number 4 done. Soon after, he reunites with the love of his life, Nadine. So what was next? Happily ever after, perhaps? Wrong. During this period, Michel underwent plastic surgery to change his appearance and changed his name to Daniel. Everything was going well until 1981, when Nadine got pregnant with his baby and he decided to rob a bank. By this time, he was an expert in robbery and was going to enter the world of major crime. So he used real guns this time, not toys. But Michel ran out of luck and ended up shooting a cop. It landed him straight in prison, and this time a different one. They sent him inside the formidable Prison De La Santé, where most of the inmates are serial killers. Nadine was permitted to see him regularly. She would sometimes bring their baby during the visit. Now, as we talked about earlier, Nadine wasn't an innocent, nice woman. She wasn't afraid to roll up her sleeves and take action. Nadine had been taking classes to fly a helicopter all this time in a rental helicopter company in southern Paris. She'd go twice a month. She rented a helicopter for $315 per hour and paid exclusively in cash. In 1986, during visit hours, Nadine managed to slip a secret note that explained her plan to break Michel out of prison. Michel then examined the prison grounds, looking for a suitable spot for a helicopter to land. After months of investigation, it became clear that there was no place large enough for it to land. The plans had to change a lot. Then would come the famous prison escape. The day finally arrived, May 26, 1986. At 10:30 a.m., a helicopter flew over central Paris, ignoring radio warnings, and hovered over the rooftop of one of the prison buildings. Michel ran towards it. And why didn't the guards shoot at them? Well, they were threatened by the grenades that Michel was holding out to them. He threatened to blow up the prison. Once they arrived at the rooftop, Nadine dropped down a rope ladder for him to climb up. Michel climbed the rope and off he went to breathe his freedom. But how exactly did Michel manage to get his hands on grenades? You didn't think those grenades were real, did you? During his time in prison, Michel painted nectarines green to make them look like grenades. The couple landed at a nearby soccer field, switching to a waiting getaway car, and disappeared into thin air. They somehow managed to take their daughter from their grandma's house. The couple managed to stay hidden for a long time, but they were still in Paris. The paper trails that Nadine had left behind while obtaining a flying license helped the authorities get her. She was arrested, but Michel was able to stay hidden. Michel went back to his old habits and started robbing again. He got away with the first robbery in a bank, stealing $75,000. But his second robbery attempt didn't go as planned. The robbery turned into a shootout, and Michel, just like before, ended up shooting a cop. But this time, Michel got shot as well, and also he got shot on his head. But did he die? No, he did not. He fell into a coma. After several weeks, he got out of the coma and was tried and convicted in a maximum security prison. Meanwhile, Nadine got out of prison. At the time when she was arrested, she was pregnant with their second baby. So while Michel was in the lockup, she was raising the two children. She would visit him regularly, but one day she confided in him. Nadine was done with criminal stuff, and above everything, she now had children to raise. From there on, she left him and never saw him again. But the story wasn't over for Michel. Nadine, the criminal lover, eventually wrote a book describing her life with him named The Girl in the Air. When the book was being promoted, it caught the eye of a 21-year-old law student named Jamila. She was so intrigued by the story that she ended up writing a letter to Michel while he was in jail. They eventually became pen pals. But what's astonishing is that she ended up falling in love with him. Jamila decided to sneak him out of prison. She hijacked a helicopter with a gun pointing towards the pilot's head. But she failed to help him and ended up getting arrested and was sentenced to 7 years in prison. However, the attempt won Michel's heart, and he got married to Jamila while serving his 20-year sentence. Michel was eventually released in 2003. Fast forward to 2024, Michel is still alive and is living a peaceful life in Paris with his wife Jamila. And Nadine, on the other hand, was never heard of again. Michel Vaujour's story is one of audacity and ingenuity, marked by the unwavering support of his wife Nadine. Their tale raises questions about the limits of love and loyalty. What do you think about the escapes? How far would you go to help your loved one? Would you risk everything, even your own freedom? Comment down below and remember to subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories. And thanks for watching.